And we're live. You are watching Coaching Chats with Marina and Caroline.
I'm Marina Baranowski of the Coaching Marina.
And I am Caroline Day with Safe Data Change. How are you, my friend?
I'm very, very well, my friend.
I am so happy to see you.
I
Yay!
know. So great.
It's so good to catch up. I love our convos, obviously. I love doing this with you. But it's been a long time. We changed. We used to do this once a week, and now we're recording and posting every other Monday, still at noon Pacific time. Um, but I think it's better. It gets people waiting for the next episode. So I really like that. I think I love what we're going to talk about today when it was actually a listener who suggested. So shout out to my friend Samia. And it was about happiness being overrated. So because we see a lot of people chasing happiness all the time, people want to hear and they actually trust people that are on social media saying, I achieved everything. I am so happy all the time.
Yeah.
And we both know that it's not necessarily true. And if it is true, you are filtering a lot of parts of your life. I actually posted on LinkedIn not too long ago where people may have, married their high school sweetheart, bought the house of their dreams, went to the prestiged university that they've always wanted to go, and was top of class and achieved everything. And that's great. Like only a few people get to do everything that they have on their scoreboard and they get to check every box. But people tend to forget that in between all of that, we lose best friends,
Yeah.
we may lose a parent or a grandparent or both. We would have to move and lose friends, lose community. But we don't talk about that, right? Like we just want to talk about the happy, happy, happy place. We don't talk about, the things we miss. The birthdays and the anniversaries and the graduations and all of that because it doesn't look good, right? Like if we were to do that. So I love this topic because I think it's a topic that a lot of people will be able to relate because happiness is subjective. So we want to hear from you, Marina. How do you see happiness?
Happiness, each one of us has to define what that is, and not many of us actually sit and figure that out. We don't really go, what is that feeling? And what happens within me when I'm feeling happy? I think for the most part, people think of happiness as a destination, a final place where we're going to be elated and everything's going to be euphoric and everything is perfect. And that's not, that's one, not the reality, but one, we're putting so much pressure on an emotion. Happiness is just an emotion. And like every other emotion that we have, it comes and goes. So treating happiness is as just that, an emotion. Enjoy it when you have it. When
Mm,
you're feeling um, joyful, or if you're feeling, humorous. These are like emotions that come and go. You're not laughing all day, every day. It's stuff that comes and goes. So the same thing with happiness. If you can define it in a way, like I defined happiness to me would be peace, would be contentment, would be fulfilled. So instead of me saying I'm seeking happiness, I'm now seeking fulfillment. I'm seeking peace. And those are the things that make me feel good. So it's kind of my little spin on that.
yeah, no, I love that. When you said that happiness is a destination, it kind of reminded me of Coachella.
Mm,
Like happiness is if you get tickets to Coachella,
right,
but then you don't have $10,000 or more to
right.
spend. and then you automatically feel sad, like you're not as happy as the people who attended. And that's just obviously an example. You can think about anything, right? Like happiness is if you can go to the concert or go to Europe and visit Europe. Otherwise, you're just sad, you know, because
Get the fancy bag or the shoes or the clothes or just anything tangible like that. But I think in the for the most people, when people get them, they don't sit with the I'm happy I have this right now. They're always looking for the future. They're always looking ahead. What can I covet next? What can I want next that's going to bring me that next happiness, whatever that is, instead of sitting in the moment. And I think that's really a part of as humans, a problem that we don't sit and enjoy the thing that we wanted. So,
Mhm.
for example, I've wanted to go on a cruise for years, and I finally got to go on my cruise after a couple decades. And every single moment, I was like, I'm just happy to be here. Like, I'm just so happy to be in this space and enjoying this time. I wasn't thinking about the next cruise. I wasn't thinking about, what was going to happen tomorrow because I was so wanting what I was experiencing. I just decided to enjoy it. And I took consciously decided to just be in the moment. And by doing that, I felt what I deemed happiness.
Yeah. So would you say that happiness then could be a destination?
I mean, a literal destination, like I'm going on a cruise, yes. But I think when someone is considering, I just want to be happy,
Mm.
like it's like I just want to feel euphoric all day, every day, and have nothing bad happen to me. Like that's really what I hear when someone says that. And that's really not a reality. You're missing out on what life is. Life is a cacophony of different things. And like you were saying, it could be grief, it could be loss, it could be um happy things, sad things, angry filled moments. All of those things are meant to for you to learn from so you can appreciate the things that bring you peace and bring you happiness.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. There is a author that actually just talked about this. He talks about how people confuse comfort with pleasure.
Mm,
They want comfort all the time. It's the short term comfort versus, like something deeper, something that is driven by purpose.
yeah.
So, why do you think that people are constantly chasing happiness?
One, happiness, depending on how you feel, it feels good, right? In the same way that you always want to chase the things that make you feel good. But in an overall, if you haven't assessed what that really means, what happiness means to you, and don't set most people don't really set an expectation. So, for example, once I do this, then I will feel this. Everyone's made most people make that statement. Once I go here, then I'll be happy. Once I buy this, then I'll be happy. And
Mm,
then instead of understanding what they really mean by that, what are you trying to achieve by that? Are you looking for comfort? Are you looking for acceptance? Are you looking for to be a part of something? Without having an understanding of what you're really seeking. And sometimes you you set an expectation in your head and you haven't really even said it so much. For example, I'll give you an example. I used to do this. I used to plan something and go somewhere, and then I would find things wrong with it. And then because the experience wasn't perfect,
mm,
I would then lower it down and feel like I didn't get the full experience. So ergo, I'm not happy. And
So like,
I didn't go, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm like, I didn't go into the experience going, I want this to happen, this to happen, this to happen, and this to happen. And that's not, I just expected it to be perfect. I expected that everything was going to just be. Food was going to be great, or the concert was going to be amazing, or my seats were going to be like, I didn't sit down and think about it. But because there was some things that were wrong, or not perfect, then the whole experience was ruined.
interesting. So it was like you, because you anticipated, or like subconsciously, not consciously.
Anticipated, right,
Yeah,
perfection.
subconsciously, you anticipated that everything was going to go right, whatever that meant.
Right,
When things didn't,
right.
it just felt like if
All of
it's
it was wrong.
all of it was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
by setting an expectation, or actually not setting an expectation, so going on this cruise, it was like, I don't care what happens. I'm going to be on a cruise. How amazing that is. That I'm going to finally get away for a few days and with my family. Like, this is great. And just being able to take every single moment as an experience and taking it in. Like when I was standing on the beach, I was like, I am on the beach. Like, how amazing is this? Instead of going, oh, there's rocks underneath my feet and they're hurting my feet. Or, there are seagulls, trying to get my food and how awful is that? Like, instead of being so negative on things, I'm actually where I had planned to be, that I wanted to be, a place that was on my vision board to be. And I am now experiencing it. And that gave me such contentment and happiness that I actually took that in. And, there's other people that were with me, on this trip that complained about everything. When something, was too cold, that it should have been hot, or, that it took too long to get something. And it's like, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just
Mm.
happy to be here. And that was I so what I'm saying about happiness is happiness to me is just a feeling. And I will feel it and I will enjoy the feeling. And then another emotion might pop up afterwards. It might be annoyed. Like I was annoyed with my siblings. I was annoyed with some things, but then I could quickly move through emotions instead of being so stagnant and set that everything has to be perfect in order for things to be and make me happy.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that because when I was talking about happiness and people thinking or trying to achieve happiness all the time, I wasn't really thinking about scenarios like that where people just want perfection and perfection equals happiness. So that's a completely different view on happiness. Happiness means nothing will go wrong. If everything goes right, I will be happy.
Yeah,
I can see that in so many scenarios, like in weddings, for example, there's that pressure that you have to look perfect, that the venue has to be perfect, that the food has to be perfect. And so if everything is perfect, you had a happy day. And
right,
if things went wrong, like somebody might have literally say, "Oh, it was a disaster because my videographer didn't show up."
right.
you know? And so I wasn't thinking of that. So thank you for bringing that up because I think, that is definitely a definition of happiness to many people. Is like the expectation of everything going right when there's so many deviations and probabilities that it won't. Plus, it's a whole day with so many different resources and things going on. The likelihood of something actually happen is way bigger than nothing happening at all, especially like the bigger the party, the more things that there are, you know, to be wrong, you know? And so, but that's really interesting how you're saying that because people do rely on things going the way they imagine or perceive in order to be happy. I love that. But then there's another happiness, which is like, People feeling happy because they did something and then they're just looking for another, like they feel so good. And because it is a feeling and it's such a good feeling that they're right there trying to get happy again. And so they're just waiting for the next hit. And now they want more of it. And that's how people really get addicted to things. That's how people spend hours on things, is because now the feeling is so good, they want more of it.
Right.
Right. So that's the other side of happiness, is that once you reach it and you really like it, now you want it all. Like, and the example that you gave was so good about the cruise because it's true. Like, um, if everything goes perfectly, then it was a good trip, but it's a whole day and you're not leaving the cruise. So the likelihood of things not going the way you imagine are very high, you
Yeah.
know? But then the other one would be, oh my gosh, I like cruise so much. I want to jump in the other one. And now I can see, for example, somebody going, if I don't go on a cruise every year, then I'm going to be sad. You know what I mean? So, because that's the other thing, right? Like once you learn what feels good, you want more of it. Like, what's the danger about that?
Oh, there's a lot of danger in that. Obviously, there's a chemical reaction when you're feeling good, and everyone wants to stay there, and that's great. However, it's not a possibility. If you do want to stay there, some people, choose nefarious means. Some people get addicted to things just to feel that really goodness. It's fleeting and it doesn't last long. And then you're always trying to chase it, and you chase it and you chase it and you chase it. And it ends up destroying a lot of other avenues in your life. So getting used to the idea that these happy moments that you deem happy, um, that they do come and go. And that's really the part of life that we kind of have to have acceptance with, because there will be moments and times that you're not going to feel that happiness. Um, like to me, it's a motivating factor. Yes, I do want to enjoy vacations again. So what do I need to do now to get to the point where I'm back there? So it becomes motivating to me where others, it may not be motivating. It could be depressing, where I'm not on a cruise right now. Now I'm really sad, and or depressed, and a little bit of a grieving period because, you have to go back to work again. So I have to chase that thing. Choose it as either make it motivating, but don't try to do the I need to have this every single moment, because it can take you down a very bad path.
Mm, yeah. Like what? Let's go. Let's go
It,
in.
some people, because again, it's a chemical reaction, right? So people use chemicals, people use drugs in some way to get that feeling, that kind of reaction. Or like for example, if someone gets that same hit, that same dopamine hit from shopping, next thing you know, you're spending your entire paycheck and then some on those things just so you can get that same sense of happiness.
Yeah, which is really a high, right? I
It's
love what you
kind of,
said earlier, and I didn't go back, but I want to go back now because I just remembered. You said like some people they come from vacations and they get a little depressed. That's actually a thing,
yeah.
right? Because you're in such a high,
Hmm.
right? Like especially if you really enjoyed your destination
Yeah.
and you spent time with your, family and you did the things that you promised yourself. And so like because it felt so good sometimes when people come back from it, they're really sad, but especially because now they have experienced that thing and they want more of it. And your body does too, right? So
Yeah.
your body kind of like feels really sad and you get like, the downfall of a really big high,
Right.
because so yeah, that was a good explanation.
But it's all in how you accept it, knowing that there is going to be highs and lows and that you're going to have ebbs and flows, is a part of life. So setting such a very stringent rule on what happiness is, or
Mhm.
that you need to achieve it at every single moment of the day, is is not tenable. There's no way for you to keep it up.
No. And so I think that's interesting because people are constantly trying to get that happiness, right? But then there's also another type. So we've talked about two
I
types
love
already.
it. Go on.
So we talked
Mhm.
about the happiness, right, of achieving something, um, and so the first happiness was really about um achieving the destination, right? So the first, I guess, analogy was happiness is the destination,
Right,
right? And then the second one is really about um, the hits, right? Getting the highs,
right.
getting that,
Staying in the highs.
a short term, and I want more of it, and I want more of it. But now the third one is it's when it's purpose driven. And the one that is purpose driven is really interesting because that one has more to do with what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to struggle with to keep this that you find so important?
Yeah,
Those are the big things, right? So we're talking now about maybe marriage, maybe a place to live, because when we choose big things like that with purpose, like there's a why behind it, there's a fulfillment behind it, there's, or like, not even, maybe it's not even that personal. It could be really like, I want to get a gold medal, And so those big things, those big decisions, when when you are searching for that type of happiness, if you think about it, there are a lot of sacrifices that come with it. However, I feel like it's the most fulfilling ones because of the struggles and the hurdles. What are you willing to withhold? What are you willing to miss? What are you willing to struggle with in order to get that big happiness? So, what do you think of that?
but that's it. I mean, you said it perfectly in that it's fulfillment. You're
Mm,
fulfilling a goal you set for yourself. You're fulfilling a dream. You're fulfilling something that is of purpose to you. In the example of the gold medal, obviously, if you are in a certain sport, you're going to have to give up your social life in order for you to achieve this thing. You're going to have to give up family time. You're going to have to give up the comforts, creature comforts, in order to achieve this thing that you set for yourself. So having that sense of fulfillment will give you happiness because it's
mhm.
something that you worked so hard for. So it's the achievement there. It's a different kind of happiness.
It is.
It's
And it's,
not a short-term thing. It is a long-term thing because it is associated with pride. It is associated with self-worth. It is associated with a lot of other emotions, not just happiness, when you're doing something that's hard and that you've achieved whatever goal that was. So it's a very different kind of emotion. But yeah, fulfillment for sure is it.
yeah. And that brings you happiness. But
Yeah.
it's funny, like it's ironic that the things that actually brings fulfillment and a bigger sense of happiness comes with also like not all the happy moments, not just the happy memories. It comes with sacrifices. You have to lose things sometimes and miss things sometimes, and hurt, but at the end of all of that, it comes your purpose, why you did it in the first place, like what you wanted to actually achieve. And that's much bigger than anything, right?
It's the value in the struggle too, because you now know that you have through the struggle, you were able to achieve this wonderful, amazing thing. And you're not thinking about the struggle anymore. You're thinking about the thing you achieved. If it's the gold medal, if it's the job promotion, if it's the whatever it is that you are seeking, for yourself, um, that's it. In that struggle, it now becomes a badge. It becomes this badge of honor almost that you have sacrificed and you did what you needed to do in order to achieve this goal you set for yourself. And there's a different feeling there.
Yeah, totally. I love that because it's true, right? So now we've talked about all of the different types of happiness. One thing that I think it's worth because we're both moms is talking about setting happiness or like teaching happiness to our family, especially our kids. And because, you know, parents sometimes they tend to either ruin their kids' ideas of happiness or not, right? It really depends on how you teach them what happiness is. And there are parents that are not willing to demonstrate or talk about the wrongs or the bad. It's just everything is rainbows and colorful and you are perfect and there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And then things are not like that, right? In the real world, they end up, facing what they haven't seen before. So, what do you think about like knowing what happiness is and teaching happiness to your kids?
When you were talking, um, what my parents taught me is very different than what I taught my kids as far as what you were saying, the sunshine and happiness. And, my parents' generation in itself were very like, you know, forthcoming. They were like, this is it. We don't have enough money. Like, there's not a, like, that was you did an awful job. Or like, they were very, very honest.
So, what did it mean then, happiness for them? Was it even achievable?
I don't think so. I don't think that they even expected it. I think they come from, you know, being raised by people who grew up in a wartime situation. And so that was like, don't even expect it.
Wow.
Don't even expect it. Just you keep doing your thing and you live your life. And if you made it to tomorrow, you should be grateful. It's like they had this way of mentality about them. So when my parents were raising me, they kind of had somewhat of a similar thing. I think that we were loved. It's just the way that they showed discontent was different. It was like, I got B's and C's. And it wasn't like I got one A. They would only focus on the B's and C's, where when I had my kids, I would focus on the A because I wanted them to be proud that they achieved it. So basically my generation overcorrected. And
So their generations don't expect happiness.
don't
Happiness
expect
is something
happiness
to be thankful for when it
when you have
happens,
it,
when
right?
and if it happens.
Right.
And then your generation is like, no, happiness is very much something you can achieve if you focus on the right things, or if you focus on the positive, you can and will reach happiness.
Right. I think we definitely overcorrected a little bit, and we wanted to shelter our children from the bad stuff. So we took on a lot as parents. I'm not sure, obviously you could talk to your generation and what you guys teach, but I feel like I don't I wanted them to not feel the hurt, not feel the disappointment, not feel all the things that I did. So I sheltered it from them. And I to some degree feel like I gave them like a little bit of disservice because now when they do have disappointments as adults, it's more difficult for them to handle them because they never really had to before.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting because the happiness we were just talking about, the last one, right, with the purpose,
Yeah.
it comes with pain.
Yeah.
And because we had so much pain and we wanted to remove all the pain, when we remove all the pain, we also remove how they're going to get to their purpose because they need to feel pain in
Right.
order to get to their purpose and understand that the whole idea of achieving something that is painful and overcoming that is like magical, really. Like
Definitely.
that's true happiness. And so thank you for saying that because I agree. I feel like that there's a lot that I could have learned. I felt like I was very sheltered. Um, but I see a lot of good and bad in being sheltered.
Mm.
I feel like that there are things that, as you mature, you can understand them better. And so I feel like my parents were protecting me from the world, but not that it would never happen, but that when it did happen, I would be at least older and able to understand certain things. And so I didn't necessarily feel like it was a bad thing to be sheltered, but there were things that I wish I knew earlier.
Yeah.
So now I try to gauge that, with my own daughter as to what do I bring up now so that you can learn early on versus what could be taught at a different timing just because you will be more mature and will understand that just a little bit better. And so that's, and it's hard for everybody. We don't have the
Yeah.
manual. Like we don't know what's
Oh,
right and
there's
wrong.
no manual. No manual.
But one thing is for sure, um, pain will exist whether you try to pull it out or not, like or whether you try to protect them or not. They will feel pain at some point in their lives, either because you protected earlier on or because you didn't. They will hurt at some point. But I feel like even if you feel like it was a disservice to your kids, it wasn't because now maybe they're suffering, but they are suffering with more maturity.
True.
And so they have the maturity now, like to take the pain in a different way versus when they were little.
Yeah.
And so there is some protection that is valid. It's just not, I feel like it's not protection if you filter all for them. And so finding the balance is really hard, obviously, as a mom. Like we don't get it every single time, right? Or we don't get any
True.
time at all. Like it goes from 0% to 99, right? Like anything in between. But I think it's even like relationships with kids, like have changed. And that is additional to happiness, right? I feel like maybe in earlier ages, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Like one type of happiness could be a relationship between your parents versus which a lot of people lacked versus now where, this generation's way more aware of something that you can actually create, and that can be a different purpose, is to have better relationship, is to have more conversations with your kid, which will bring you and them more happiness.
Absolutely. Having what I would say is if I were to go back, I probably would teach my children better emotional intelligence. I feel like if they were able to feel the emotions that they were having and being able to have a conversation in the moment while they were having these emotions to help them be able to regulate themselves, I think probably would have been a better choice, but I didn't have my own emotional intelligence then for me to do it. So I think now, especially with the kids having so much access to so much information, being able to talk to them is probably a little easier because they have some sort of understanding at least of what you're talking about. And disappointment's going to happen and um arguments are going to happen and fights with friends and all of those things happen. So being able to be a safe place for them to have discussions as while they're going through something like that and being able to guide them in a way which will help them with those emotions, I feel would make it easier for them to be able to do it as adult, do it as an adult. And I think having having those that open line of communication is key. I didn't have that. I have it now, but I don't have it. I didn't have it then. And I didn't want to talk to my own parents about things. So I get it. I understand why. But just being there with some good information, especially when they're disappointed. We could be just simply as disappointed in a grade they get, and it's being able to sit down and talk to them about that, or even when they're happy about certain things or feeling pride in certain things or achievement in certain things, being able to really talk about it and reinforce that same emotion and feeling. I am proud of you. I know you're proud of you, but I'm also proud of you is important. So being able to have an open line of communication, I feel, is is pretty important,
Yeah, I
especially with
agree.
today's kids.
Yeah. And I like what you said about, like now with information, they actually want to know more
They do.
because if you don't teach them, they're going to come to you with questions because somebody else will talk about it, you
Exactly.
know. And so because of technology, it's actually forcing like the conversation a little bit more because now it's out there. Now I can find this information and then go back and say, like, or them can say, Mom, what does that mean? Like, what
Right.
is this I didn't know about? Right. And so I think what happened was we're closing a gap um, between parenting, the parents and the kids.
Right.
I feel like before there was this huge gap, like there was the authority, right? Like you're the parent, I'm the kid. And then depending on the pain level of that, people are like trying to like just close the gap a little bit where maybe I don't have to be this authoritative,
Right.
person and we can actually have a conversation. So when you close that gap, you make it easier for that conversation to happen. But I think that there's still, luckily, a lot of information there where we can close the gap in a way that is healthy,
Yeah.
that we're not completely softening their pain because
Right.
pain happens. I think just like all of us, sometimes when all we need is a shoulder to cry on,
A
all we
hug,
need is a
something.
hug. And so remembering, that that's what the human being really needs and not like you to remove my pain
Right.
completely, but
Right.
just to be there with me when that happens. I think there's a lot for us to still learn, in terms of that, especially as parents. But, there is information now out there, there's so many doctors now that talks very openly about these are some ways that you can interact with your children without
Yeah.
having to remove their pain because it's important that they do know how to, like you said earlier, regulate
Yeah.
themselves so that they understand how they can understand that pain is there and happiness is also there and all of it is okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be happy all the time. In fact, it's better if you're not like it's good to
Yeah.
have, be able to have all these feelings.
And to, again, regulate yourself as you're having these emotions and feelings. When you're happy, great, enjoy it while it's there, but know that life isn't always going to be just one solid, euphoric, happy thing, but being appreciative and accepting that life brings different things to you. It allows you to go with the flow a little bit easier instead of being so staunch in, I need to be happy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and for the rest of my life, I need to do this. And
Yeah.
that's really it's not feasible.
Yeah. How do you think you can control that? Can you control that? Like if somebody is just, like they don't feel happy and then now they want to be happy again, so they go online and then they turn it off or, the battery goes off and now they're unhappy again. So then they open a bottle of wine so they can be happy and then they're not happy and then they turn on like a video. Like what's happening here? Like why are we
You're trying
always
to control it. And I think the my suggestion is stop it. Stop controlling it. Because
Mm,
I think what you're doing is you're trying to force yourself to have experiences, force yourself to have these emotions and feelings instead of just being in the moment and as things come to you, instead of planning every single moment and trying to control every second, which in itself has got to be so dysregulating. Just trying to make sure everything goes right and make sure that everything is perfect. I mean, it's got to be very dysregulating. I remember trying it, but it's definitely not something that I felt comfortable with, and it brought me more stress than peace.
Mm,
And I know when you had said, there's so much information that brings me to the social media. That right now, what I see in some of my feed is everything is curated. Everything has to look great. Everything is like, look how amazing people's lives are. And we're not assessing the whole picture because the whole picture isn't being given to us.
mm.
They have this perfect marriage, and there's this picture of this perfect marriage, and you're like, oh, I want to have that. But you don't see when the cameras are off that they're arguing or that they're sleeping in separate rooms, or like, that they're just not what they have the picture of,
Yeah, what it took to get
what it
there.
took to get there, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what I'm trying to say is live your life, because it's going to look very different than what everyone else's is.
Mm,
When you see something that you're feeling envious of or jealous of, and we've spoken of this on another another episode,
notes, yeah.
is it's a message. It just means that maybe you want to try some of that, maybe have something else, make plans for it,
Yeah.
save up for it, whatever you need to do in order to get there. You never know, you may hate it.
Yeah.
How did I know that I would enjoy a cruise? I didn't.
Mm,
I could have went on a cruise and like, you know what, I'm never doing that again. But the thing is like it was an experience. It was an experience that I wanted to have, and I had it. And luckily I had a good time. But the point is like instead of putting such rules on everything having to be perfect, everything needs to be happy, everything needs to be amazing in order for to achieve this sense of happiness, enjoying each moment as it comes, when it comes, is is a lot more freeing, at least for me, to live my life that way.
oh, there's so much wisdom there. I really like that. You did say something earlier, though, is to the extent of, like it must be exhausting doing things like where you're controlling things. I just want to point it out that, people are different,
True.
and I'm going to take it for myself. I actually do like it when I have a little bit more control of my schedule, when I know what I'm going to do and what I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think people need to just find out what works for them
Yeah.
because maybe it doesn't work at all for some people. Some people are more like in the creative side. They don't like the pressure of having everything scheduled. And then there's people like me that loves to have everything organized and have like the schedules and,
Yeah.
be able
Wonderful.
to do things. And that actually brings fulfillment to them.
Which is a different story, right? So for example, and what I was let me ask you a question. So let's just say you have your whole schedule and you're off by, let's say, 15 minutes. Does that make you dysregulated, or is it just an ebb and flow? You have a structure that you can kind of play around with, and that makes you feel good. I think that if you have a structure and a schedule and you're off by 1 minute and you have now just become completely dysregulated because you're not on schedule anymore, that's different. You planning out your whole day, I think is phenomenal. I
Yeah.
think we should have some sort of schedule, but controlling every single moment,
Yeah.
and having it be exactly what you expect it to be is
Yeah.
kind of really where I was.
Yeah, that's the pressure. Yeah. And I think it's not even control for me, is like repressing.
Mm,
Because when you're suppressing, not when you're suppressing
depressing.
the feeling, right,
Yeah.
you're not letting it be expressed. And so I think even when somebody's frustrated that they're a few minutes over, because they're expressing what's coming up, that's actually beautiful. Like that's how I see it. I see like if it's expressed, like you're frustrated, you're late or
Right.
whatever, I
But if
think.
they're suppress it,
But if they're suppressing, right?
yeah,
Like now they're frustrated, they're not talking about it, like, or they're comparing, like my life is not like their lives. I don't have what they have, like that is like really adding to the drama, right? But in terms of happiness, you have to find what makes you happy, but that you're willing, what are the things that you're willing to sacrifice for that? Like, does he have any full, deep meaning to you?
Yeah.
Like understand your why.
Yeah.
Like not just, oh, I want this because, like it's the next best thing, but why do you want that? Like, is it important to you? What are you willing to sacrifice to have that? And is that sacrifice something that you're willing to do to get it? And I think that that's really important.
Having that definition for yourself as to what happiness is, um, in the respect of yes, the feeling, but it's more than just the feeling. What is happiness to you? To me, the word happiness, and yes, that's an emotion, you feel happy, but ultimately I want contentment. I want peace. I want to be able to have pride and know that yes, I worked hard for what I'm doing. So all that range of happiness that we talked about, it lends to the same thing of you being or me being happy. I can honestly say that I'm happy. And even though I have trials and tribulations and struggles like everyone else does, I'm happy and I'm content and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, that teaches me so much. That's so good. Yay. I can't say the same. Hopefully,
Oh,
people agree with both of us too. Like, people will relate. I don't know if it's because, like, I was, in a zone of like, what am I going to do next or this year? It's been like a lot, I think, for my family. My daughter is ending elementary school. We're still in like trying to find where we're going to land for middle school. And we're in the middle of a transition, which I love because every day is a safe day to change, as
love
cliche as
it.
this is. Um, but I think identifying, you're right, like I don't want to say if I'm happy or not because it doesn't matter to me. I think I have things that make me happy constantly. I have a list of things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like I wouldn't say, like that I'm happy right now just because I feel like there's a lot of fulfillment that I would like to still pursue, but I have a list of things that I'm grateful for that I can tap into if I want that dopamine, like if I want that
Yeah.
happiness. But for the long run, like I have plans, that on the list, and I'm in the pursuit of happiness right now. Like I'm not,
Pursuit of happiness.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
But I think like when you sit down and you're doing your gratitude list and you're thinking about all the amazing things that you have and what emotion pops up for you?
Gratitude,
And is it just gratitude?
joy, yeah,
You're happy.
yeah,
You have such beautiful things. And
yeah,
knowing that that is okay to have, that emotion is okay to have. And yeah, you're still, it doesn't mean you have to stop working.
yeah.
I'm still working, but I'm happy today with what I have today. Tomorrow, when I win the lotto, I will also be happy. And then 2 weeks from now, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can maneuver through it. I don't have to stop my pursuit of happiness.
Hmm.
I can enjoy the things I have today and be happy with it and still want more.
I love that. It's true. I love that. And I hope people can relate,
I
like to
hope
these
so.
stories. I love that we have different, like that we have complementary
I think so.
perspectives.
I think
And
so.
I think that that's important to have. I can't wait to see you again.
Yes.
It's great. Thank you guys for watching.
You
Please like, comment, subscribe. We love you
too.
guys.
Share,
And
share, share.